And it's getting to that time of the month when it's appropriate to talk about who is most deserving of winning a Player of the Month award or a Pitcher of the Month award, which is something of a conflict there. But we'll just get over that. I know John Gibson, my podcast partner, likes to call it I don't know what, performer of the month or some such thing. But really, it comes down to who's the hitter with I guess, the most unusual numbers, and and we could call the pitcher of the month the winning starting pitcher of the month because that tends to be who they choose. Anyway, so when I'm thinking about the award and perhaps who I might want to interview ahead of the awards, this is how I start to look at this issue. Is by taking out my FileMaker database on the monthly batters and pitchers. And so just show you this, how I've got it set up here. Basically, I can select any month from month to month, any period of the year, and look for specific periods of performance, just the straight data. To begin with, let's look in the Central League, and also we've got from month 7 to month 7, so all of July, which is going to be ending on Monday. And let's set it for the Central League and set it for players who would qualify for the batting average title as of Friday. Okay, we'll just set this and see what we get. Now these are the Central League, and the leading hitter in the Central League here is Masayuki Kuwahara of the Bay Stars. 407 average is pretty impressive. And if you look at some of the other guys he'll be compared to, who are comparable, I guess the most obvious one is Kosuke Tanaka here, number 2 of the Hiroshima Carp, who has no home, who is basically more of a singles hitter. I guess less power. Kuhara is not known for his power, but he had hit 6 home runs this month through Friday. So it's a nice overall performance with a pretty hefty OPS of 1.171, which makes him a pretty solid candidate. I know that the selectors don't really care about runs scored. They might not really understand that runs are important. But Kuwahara tied Yoshihiro Maru with 16, was again through Friday, was tied with Yoshihiro Maru, the Carp, with 16 runs scored. Maru did have more RBIs and more walks, as Maru will, but the big difference here is all the singles that Kuwahara had. Now, I like to look at OPS as kind of especially. I also like to consider defensive value, and here you have 2 center fielders, which is kind of interesting. And the third batter down is actually Maru is even comparable. If you look at the average in there, Maru is not really comparable. The 284, I don't think anybody's going to give him a 284 hitter. The OPS is not really close, but let's look at OPS for a second. The league leader through Friday was Vladimir Valentin of the Swallows, and on Saturday, which is a day after this latest data scoop, he had 9 home runs. He has 10 now, and his 19 RBIs were leading the Central League, which is one of the stats they do look at. He was hitting 292, which is fairly healthy. That nice 439 on base percentage. Those are things they do look at. So it seems, if we look at batting average, who's it going to be up to? Kosuke Tanaka or Toshiro Miyazaki of the Bay Stars, or Kuwahara, or perhaps Valentin. I think Valentin or Kuwahara are good choices. It'll be interesting to see who they pick. Now let's turn our attention to the Pacific League batter. Okay, we have the Pacific League set up. I'll just tell the data to look for the Pacific League hitters. Now, the original sort here is by batting average, and you can see that the leading hitter through Friday's games was Carlos Peguero of the Rakuten Eagles, with his teammate Ginji Akaminai right behind him. And so they like the average hitters, so we'll start there. Let's look at RBIs, another category they really like. Takuya Nakamura and Shogo Akiyama, the Lions, are tied with 17 each. They both have really nice OPSs. Nakamura, Okwari-kun is probably not going to make it. Nobody's going to give him, he's got 9 home runs, but nobody's going to give it to a guy with a 257 batting average, regardless of anything else. See who's leading the league in runs scored in the Pacific League. Boy, a lot of Lions up here. Sosuke Gendo with 14, and Tonosaki, Shuta Tonosaki of the Lions. In fact, the top it's hard to believe, but the top 5 Pacific Leaguers in runs scored are all Lions. Sosuke Genda, Shuta Tonosaki, Hideo Asamura, Nakamura, and Shogo Akiyama. So that's this has been really a good month for the Lions. So look at RBIs, which they care about. Nakamura and Akiyama, as I said. Zealous Wheeler, the Eagles, 16, pretty impressive. So I'm going to go back to OPS and just have a look here. Yuki Yanagita is having a really Yuki Yanagita month. Now, last month he was just leading in almost everything. This month he isn't, but he is leading in OPS, and I call it a Yuki Yanagita month because last year he was certainly a good candidate for MVP along with Shohei Ohtani and Katsuya Kakunaka, but nobody seemed to recognize it because it was such a drop-off from his 2015 performance. In fact, he didn't finish in the top 3 in best 9 in the outfield, which was pretty bizarre. So anyway, so he's nothing here pops out at you, but the overall package is quite impressive. Another guy I think is gonna attract some attention. Just occurred to me here is the number 2 guy. Well, actually, the number 2 guys in home runs both play for the Rakuten Eagles. Third baseman Zealous Wheeler, and designated hitter Yafet Amador, who had a monster week last week. He had a 3 home run game, and those 7 home runs really boosted him up in OPS, and he also had a really nice 300 batting average, which is kind of a bottom line for the selectors. So really going to be interesting in the Pacific League this month. I'm inclined. I think, though, if you compare these guys, they're going to look and see that Peguero's average, because the guy with the home runs, Nakamura, is hitting 257. So I'm not high on his chances. I think, if it were up to me, I'd make Yanagita the man, basically because you've got Amador and Peguero. Shogo Akiyama's a heck of a player, but the guy who can play defense is Yanagita, and I know they don't care about defense, which is why we'll call it the high average hitter of the month, but he would be my choice. Okay, next time we'll be talking about the pitchers of the month. Thanks for sticking with me, and looking forward to talking more baseball.